Good evening and welcome back to Cecilia. Bit hot today, isn't it? I apologise for my absence for the last few days. This week has been quite a lot in many ways, but I thought I would get the chance in to read now before I get too tired later. Don't know why I said too tired. I'm planning to go to the beach. Anyway. Chapter 8. A Miser's Mansion. Mr. Briggs was at home, and Cecilia instantly and briefly informed him that it was inconvenient for her to live any longer at Mr. Harrels, and that if she could be accommodated at his house, she should be glad to reside with him during the rest of her minority. Shell, cried he, extremely pleased. Take you with all my heart. Warrant Master Harrels made a good penny o' you. Not a bit the better for dressing so fine. Many a rogue in gold-laced hat. Cecilia begged to know what apartments he could spare for her. Take you upstairs, cried he. Show you a place for the Queen. He then led her upstairs and took her to a room entirely dark and so close for want of air that she could hardly breathe in it. She retreated to the landing place till he had opened the shutters, and then saw an apartment the most forlorn she had ever beheld, containing no other furniture than a ragged stuffed bed, two worn-out rush-bottomed chairs, an old wooden box, and a bit of broken glass which was fastened to the wall by two bent nails. See here, my little chick, cried he. Everything ready, and a box for your gimcracks into the bargain. You don't mean this place for me, sir? Cried Cecilia, staring. Do, cried he. A deal nicer by and by. Only wants a little furnishing. Soon puts to right. Never sweep a room out of use. Only wears out brooms for nothing. But, sir, can I not have an apartment on the first floor? No, something else to do with it. Belongs to the club. Secrets in all things. Make this do well enough. Come again next week. Wear quite a new face. Nothing wanting but a table. Pick you up one at the broker's. But I'm obliged, sir, to leave Mr. Harrel's house directly. Well, make shift without a table at first. No great matter if you hadn't one at all. Nothing particular to do with it. Want another blanket, though. Know where to get one. Very good broker hard by. Understand how to deal with him. A close dog, but warm. I have also 2 servants, sir, said Cecilia. Won't have 'em. Shan't come. Eat me out of house and home. Whatever they eat, sir, answered she, will be wholly at my expense, as will everything else that belongs to them. Better get rid of 'em. Hate servants. All a pack of rogues. Think of nothing but stuffing and guttling. Then, opening another door, See here, he cried. My own room just by, snug as a church. Cecilia, following him into it, lost a great part of her surprise at the praise he had lavished upon that which he destined for herself, by perceiving that his own was yet more scantily furnished, having nothing in it but a miserable bed without any curtains, and a large chest, which, while it contained his clothes, sufficed both for table and chair. What's doing here? Cried he angrily to a maid who was making the bed. Can't you take more care? Beat out all the feathers, see? 2 on the ground, nothing but waste and extravagance. Never mind how soon a man's ruined. Come to want, you slut, see that? Come to want. I can never want more than I do here, said the girl, so that's one comfort. Cecilia now began to repent she had made known the purport of her visit, for she found it be utterly impossible to accommodate either her mind or her person to a residence such as was here to be obtained, and she only wished Mr. Monckton had been present, that he might himself be convinced of the impracticability of his scheme. Her whole business, therefore, now was to retract her offer and escape from the house. I see, sir, said she, when he turned from his servant, that I cannot be received here without any inconvenience, and therefore I will make some new arrangement in my plan. No, cried he, like to have you. 'Tis but fair, all in our turn. Won't be choused. Master Harrel's had his share. Sorry you could not get that sweetheart. Would not bite. Soon find out another. Never fret. But there are so many things with which I cannot possibly dispense, said Cecilia, that I am certain my removing hither would occasion you far more trouble than you at present foresee. No, get all in order soon. Go about myself. Know how to bid. Understand trap. Always so shabby. No making a bargain in a good coat. Look sharp at the goods. Say they won't do. Come away. Send somebody else for 'em. Never go twice myself. Nothing got cheap if one seems to have a hankering. But I am sure it is not possible, said Cecilia, hurrying downstairs, that my room and one for each of my servants should be ready in time. Yes, cried he, following her. Ready in a trice. Make a little shift at first, double the blanket till we get another, lie with the maid a night or two, never stand for a trifle." And when she was seated in her chair, the whole time disclaiming her intention of returning, he only pinched her cheek with a facetious smirk and said, "Bye-bye, little duck, come again soon. Warrant I'll have the room ready. Shan't half know it again, make it as smart as a carrot." And then she left the house, fully satisfied that no one could blame her for refusing to inhabit it, and much less chagrined than she was willing to suppose herself, in finding she had now no recourse but in the Delviles. Yet, in her serious reflections, she could not but think herself strangely unfortunate that the guardian with whom alone it seemed proper for her to reside should by parsimony, vulgarity, and meanness render riches contemptible, prosperity unavailing, and economy odious, and that the choice of her uncle should thus unhappily have fallen upon the lowest and most wretched of misers, in a city abounding with opulence, hospitality, and splendour, and of which the principal inhabitants, long eminent for their wealth and their probity, were now universally almost rising in elegance and liberality. Chapter 9. A Declaration. Cecilia's next progress, therefore, was to St. James's Square, whither she went in the utmost anxiety, from her uncertainty of the reception with which her proposal would meet. The servants informed her that Mr. and Mrs. Delvile were at breakfast, and that the Duke of Derwent and his 2 daughters were with them. Before such witnesses to relate the reasons of her leaving the Harrels was impossible, and from such a party to send for Mrs. Delvile would by her stately guardian be deemed indecorum unpardonable. She was obliged, therefore, to return to Portman Square in order to open her cause in a letter to Mrs. Delvile. Mr. Arnott, flying instantly to meet her, called out, "Oh, madam, what alarm has your absence occasioned? My sister believes she should see you no more. Mr. Harrel feared a premature discovery of his purposed retreat, and we have all been under the cruellest apprehensions lest you meant not to come back." "I am sorry I spoke not with you before I went out," said Cecilia, accompanying him to the library, "but I thought you were all too much occupied to miss me. I have been indeed preparing for a removal, but I meant not to leave your sister without bidding her adieu, nor indeed to quit any part of the family with so little a ceremony. Is Mr. Harrel still firm to his last plan?" "I fear so. I have tried what is possible to dissuade him, and my poor sister has wept without ceasing. Indeed, if she will take no consolation, I believe I shall do what she pleases, for I cannot bear the sight of her in such distress." "You are too generous and too good," said Cecilia, "and I know not how, while flying from danger myself, to forbear counselling you to avoid it also." "Ah, madam," cried he, "the greatest danger for me is what I have now no power to run from." Cecilia, though she could not but understand him, felt not the less his friend for knowing him the humblest of her admirers, and as she saw the threatening ruin to which his too great tenderness exposed him, she kindly said, "Mr. Arnott, I will speak to you without reserve. It is not difficult to see that the destruction which awaits Mr. Harrel is ready also to ensnare his brother-in-law. But let not that blindness to the future which we have so often lamented for him hereafter be lamented for yourself. Till his present connections are broken and his way of living is changed, nothing can be done for him, and whatever you were to advance would merely be sunk at the gaming table. Reserve therefore your liberality till it may indeed be of service to him, for believe me at present his mind is as much injured as his fortune." "And is it possible, madam," said Mr. Arnott, in an accent of surprise and delight, "that you can deign to be interested in what may become of me, and that my sharing or escaping the ruin of this house is not wholly indifferent to you?" "Certainly not," answered Cecilia. "As the brother of my earliest friend, I can never be insensible to your welfare." "Ah, madam," cried he, "as her brother! Oh, that there were any other tie!" "Think a little," said Cecilia, preparing to quit the room, "of what I have mentioned, and for your sister's sake be firm now if you would be kind hereafter." "I will be any and everything," cried he, "that Miss Beverley will command." Cecilia, fearful of any misinterpretation, then came back, and gravely said, "No, sir, be ruled only by your own judgment, or should my advice have any weight with you, remember it is given from the most disinterested motives, and with no other view than that of securing your power to be of service to your sister. For that sister's sake, then, have the goodness to hear my situation and honour me with further directions." "You will make me fear to speak," said Cecilia, "if you give so much consequence to my opinion. I have seen, however, nothing in your conduct I have ever wished changed, except too little attention to your own interest and affairs." "Ah!" cried he, "with what rapture should I hear those words, could I but imagine—" "Come, come," said Cecilia, smiling, "no digression. You call me back to talk of your sister. If you change your subject, perhaps you may lose your auditor." "I would not, madam, for the world encroach upon your goodness. The favour I have found has indeed always exceeded my expectations, as it has always surpassed my desert. Yet has it never blinded me to my own unworthiness. Do not, then, fear to indulge me with your conversation. I shall draw from it no inference but a pity, and though pity for Miss Beverley is the sweetest balm to my heart, it shall never seduce me to the encouragement of higher hopes." Cecilia had long had reason to expect such a declaration, yet she heard it with unaffected concern, and looking at him with the utmost gentleness, said, "Mr. Arnott, your regard does me honour, and were it somewhat more rational would give me pleasure. Take then from it what is more than I wish or merit, and while you preserve the rest, be assured it will be faithfully returned." "Your rejection is so mild," cried he, "that I, who had no hope of acceptance, find relief in having at last told my sufferings. Could I but continue to see you every day, and be blessed with your conversation, I think I should be happy, and I am sure I should be grateful." "You are already," answered she, shaking her head and moving towards the door, "infringing the conditions upon which our friendship is to be founded." "Do not go, madam," he cried, "till I have done what you have just promised to permit, acquainted you with my situation, and been honoured with your advice. I must own to you, then, that the £5,000 which I had in the stocks, as well as a considerable sum in a banker's hands, I have parted with, as I now find, for ever. But I have no heart for refusal, nor would my sister at this moment be thus distressed, but that I have nothing more to give without I cut down my trees or sell some farm, since all I was worth, except my landed property, is already gone. What therefore I can now do to save Mr. Harrel from this desperate expedition, I know not." "I am sorry," said Cecilia, "to speak with severity of one so nearly connected with you, yet suffer me to ask why should he be saved from it at all? And what is there he can at present do better? Has not he long been threatened with every evil that is now arrived? Have we not both warned him, and have not the clamours of his creditors assailed him? Yet what has been the consequence? He has not submitted to the smallest change in his way of life. He has not denied himself a single indulgence, nor spared any expense, nor thought of any reformation. Luxury has followed luxury, and he has only grown fonder of extravagance as extravagance has become more dangerous. Till the present storm therefore blows over, leave him to his fate, and when a calm succeeds, I will myself, for the sake of Priscilla, aid you to save what is possible of the wreck." "All you say, madam, is as wise as it is good, and now I am acquainted with your opinion, I will wholly now model myself upon it, and grow as steady against all attacks as hitherto I have been yielding." Cecilia was then retiring, but again detaining her, he said, "You spoke, madam, of a removal, and indeed it is high time you should quit this scene. Yet I hope you intend not to go till tomorrow, as Mr. Harrel has declared your leaving him sooner will be his destruction." "Heaven forbid," said Cecilia, "for I mean to be gone with all the speed in my power." "Mr. Harrel," answered he, "did not explain himself, but I believe he apprehends your deserting his house at this critical time will raise a suspicion of his own design of going abroad, and make his creditors interfere to prevent him." "To what a wretched state," cried Cecilia, "has he reduced himself! I will not, however, be the voluntary instrument of his disgrace, and if you think my stay is so material to his security, I will continue here till tomorrow morning." Mr. Arnott almost wept his thanks for this concession, and Cecilia, happy in making it to him, instead of Mr. Harrel, then went to her own room and wrote the following letter to Mrs. Delvile. To the Honourable Mrs. Delvile, St. James's Square. Dear Madam, Portman Square, June 12th. I am willing to hope you have been rather surprised that I have not sooner availed myself of the permission with which you yesterday honoured me of spending this whole day with you, but unfortunately for myself I am prevented waiting upon you even for any part of it. Do not, however, think me now ungrateful if I stay away, nor tomorrow impertinent, if I venture to inquire whether that apartment which you had once the goodness to appropriate to my use may then again be spared for me. The accidents which have prompted this strange request will, I trust, be sufficient apology for the liberty I take in making it, when I have the honour to see you, and acquaint you what they are. I am, with the utmost respect, dear Madam, your most obedient humble servant, Cecilia Beverley. She would not have been thus concise, had not the caution of Mr. Arnott made her fear, in the present perilous situation of affairs, to trust the secret of Mr. Harrel to paper. The following answer was returned her from Mrs. Delvile. To Miss Beverley, Portman Square. The accidents you mention are not, I hope, of a very serious nature, since I shall find difficulty insurmountable in trying to lament them, if they are productive of a lengthened visit from my dear Miss Beverley to her faithful humble servant, Augusta Delvile. Cecilia, charmed with this note, could now no longer forbear looking forward to brighter prospects, flattering herself that once under the roof of Mrs. Delvile, she must necessarily be happy, let the engagements or behaviour of her son be what they might. All right, we will pause there. It's rather interesting that she sent that note on June the 12th, which means that, shall we say, a day crowded with incident is on June the 13th, which is Bernie's own birthday. She must have planned that. I find that interesting. Anyway, tune in tomorrow, and will we get as far as... yes, I think we might get as far as the interesting events of June the 13th tomorrow. Have a good evening.